Hi guys, this is an S&P 500 technical analysis update for 23rd of July 2020. Okay, let's go into it. So Nasdaq and Microsoft we're going to cover first. So let's cover Microsoft whilst we're on it. So we've been covering this since the March lows. If you have a look through the old videos, we've pretty much been long since here, and we've said this is the last blow off top move across the board, especially in the Nasdaq. The cleanest count in any of the major indices that we follow has been the Nasdaq. Obviously, the biggest two stocks in that is Apple, Microsoft 1 and 2, and Amazon number 3, and Amazon can still go to 4,000. So we are running this as just a simple wave 4, some kind of level of wave 4, assuming this is all some kind of primary level wave 5 in itself. So something like this, and we've had the idea for many months now, so you could say it's an intermediate degree. The degree level doesn't really matter. All we're saying is it's a wave 4, it's consolidation. There is nothing to suggest there's an imminent dump on Microsoft. We're looking for this. We're looking for one more push up. Now, we've had this target here for pretty much 2 years, 225. It shows the power of long-term fib projections and the ability to forecast markets well ahead of time. Then we know there is a chance, as I've been alluding to since around here, where I thought, actually, you know what, we're so close to $2 trillion, we're probably going to hit it. And $2 trillion based on the shares outstanding at time of video is roughly 260. You can have a look at that yourself if you wanted to. Don't forget, market cap is just shares outstanding multiply the share price. So you can reverse engineer that, divide $2 trillion, obviously divide that into the shares outstanding, and you get your answer. So I would say Microsoft still one more push up, and then, like we said, some kind of significant correction. So, you know, we keep on referencing 1999, which a lot of people are now doing, but it all comes down to at what point do you reference it? I mean, we were long since here. So, you know, it can get a little bit choppy here. Noticed Nasdaq actually topped March in 2000. Microsoft topped about 3 months prior to that, and then made a lower high. So that kind of divergence is possible, but either way, at time of doing video, at the end of July, now July, there's a lot of tax selling, there's a lot of low liquidity, no one's really at their desk. It's very normal for July. Statistically, I would say July is probably the worst performing month for most people, simply due to the fact that there's not a whole lot going on, and any clean impulse or any clean move is really just ruined by the fact that there's no real volume there. So I've never seen a market top in July. So you're looking at August now for this market to peak. Now, obviously, we have the US election in November, but a lot can happen between now and November. A lot can happen, right? We got Labor Day weekend. Maybe everything dumps Labor Day weekend. So a lot has happened this year still. It's likely there's going to be a lot more price movement to come, something to the upside, and then some kind of down move, or at least the initial signs of weakness coming into the market. On a scale of 0 to 10 in terms of retail FOMO from major mainstream media, I'd say we're at a 0 out of 10. We're nowhere near Bitcoin 20,000 euphoria yet. So you have to just take the reasonable logical assumption that actually this market hasn't topped just yet and it's going to go higher. So next one is going to be Apple, and at Apple we've also been saying just the same thing. Forget about that. We'll just look at it as just a straight one more move up. One more move up. I mean, that's a leading diagonal count, but either way, regardless of what it is, I'm just running a clean impulse from here. Like, you don't even need to know the previous count, okay? You always start on Elliott wave count from an SB, which is a significant low. This is obviously a significant low. So even here, what's going on here in real time is just an intermediate level wave 5. And yes, 460 would be your $2 trillion market cap, and it could still happen, right? It's really not that big a deal from current levels. So July is very much a time issue rather than a price issue. So you just want to be, just doing vertical spreads, condors, butterflies, candle spreads. You don't really want to go directional end of July. So one more push up, and then we get pretty close. Now let's move on to the NDX. Let's see what we've got on here. So NDX, as you can see, the parallel lines are just getting completely outdone here. And once again, we're just going to go higher. So, I mean, we've got 13,000 here. Well, we've got 14,000. And really, like I said, at time of doing video, it's not topped. And, 12,000, 13,000, it might even go higher. Sideways consolidation, that's going to build the cause ready for the last, and as it turns out, final effect. So this stimulus check 2.0, I mean, you can't make this up. The first one initiated the move, literally initiated the move. The second check is now going to be the liquidity for everyone to basically offload their position. So stimulus 2.0 is effectively not only inevitable, I think it's necessary to provide liquidity to basically get out. And that's all you're doing here. You're just providing liquidity. Really, you're not really a trader or investor as such, especially if you don't know what you're doing. So Amazon, I'd say 4K Amazon. I'd say 4K Amazon. I mean, this is just a way for, I know a lot of longer term investors have been selling, and that's okay. This is not always about buying the exact low and selling the exact high. As long as you've taken part one way or another in the bulk of the move, then you've probably done well. This is still not an imminent sign of a top. Still looking like a sideways consolidation wave 4, ready for one more push up. So I would say there's still a 75% chance Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon hit a $2 trillion market cap, and Nasdaq, NDX, I mean, basically gets us to, I'd say 13,000. I mean, there's a target I have, I believe, of 13.6. So that is possible. Now, gold is going to go to all-time new highs, and obviously, sooner or later, everyone's looking at the SQs, which are 3 times the inverse leverage, but we're not really ready there yet. Qs can still go higher. Qs, I mean, that can go as low as 3.56. Qs, we've been long since the lows, effectively. So still looking at one more push up. I mean, the most bullish target I have here is 300s. So got a target at 296 and then 278. So, shaving off profits, but still we're looking at the Qs to go higher, and price can go up on low volume. I mean, sooner or later, low volume isn't good, especially with these sudden liquidations. But, price can still go up on low, not so nice volume, and then suddenly we get the big move down like we did here. Price tends to move down on high volume, and price can go up on low volume. It's showing lack of sellers. But obviously, low volume sooner or later does kind of point to the fact that there may very well be some kind of correction coming, as we got with Facebook down here in July of 18, and this was just wedging higher. Sooner or later, double topped. Next thing you know, we get a huge move down. So price can go up on low volume, but yes, it is the initial signs that sooner or later this retail led move, which is very typical. Wave 5s are retail led, but even with that being said, they are retail led, but still there's a whole bunch of cash on the sidelines and casual retail investors who aren't as of yet involved in this market, which means it goes higher basically. Now ES, I mean, we're looking at this to go higher basically, right? ES to go higher and clear this overnight high. So we marked out this overnight high that markets can't peak. Well, they shouldn't peak. The auction shouldn't end at 7 p.m. Eastern or midnight London. It's just not going to happen, right? It needs to end in the RTH. And this was never a short until this RTH gets cleared. Now, it's a little bit messy. It could just be one giant ending diagonal sequence. I wouldn't be too concerned, I don't think, about the count. Some kind of kite wedging business, then we get the huge move down. It's probably, if you had to push me towards a count, I mean, really, it's all about the Nasdaq E. This market isn't really relevant, I don't think. But I would say, I mean, various counts you could have here. You could easily say that's a 1, 2, 3, and a 4, and now we're in the 5. You could easily say that. That's a very reasonable count. That all of that is a 1, that's a 2, and we're already in the 5. Or the count which I had from the lows was that was the 1, that was the 2. Because a 1, 2, 3, and then that was a 2. And this actually may very well be in the third of the third. So the 3 is actually up here, and the 5 is at 4,000, and the 4 is here. So if things like Tesla do get added to the S&P, hence the ES, and they have an 8% weighting. Obviously, Tesla carries a really high market cap right now. I mean, I think it may very well have topped last week. We'll have a quick look at it right now. But even if it goes sideways, it will still push the S&P higher, okay? They could easily, through index futures manipulation and index manipulation, take these markets to where the Fibonacci told us ages ago that it was going to get to. I mean, we've been calling 4,000 on the S&P for over 7 years now. There was always going to be one final move. So that could just be a third. 1, 2, 1, 2, and then into here 3, 4, and then you go into your 5. So still it goes higher, you know. Still this market is going to go higher. There's just nothing more to sort of say on that. And the Dow Jones, yeah, you know, I mean, that technically that's an RTH high, but it never hit 30,000 on any intraday basis. I don't recall it actually hitting 30,000 at all. I mean, it got close. So 30k on the Dow, that brings a lot of FOMO. And like I said, you can just have the same count as you would do on the ES. Say either 1, 2 to be safe, or 1, 2, 1, 2, and we're in the third of the third. So by hook or by crook, sooner or later, Dow's going to go higher. ES, I mean, they're still going higher. So but yes, Nasdaq is going to be the leading indicator, and basically any excuse to offload those positions, going to jump on that. And then, you know, DAX is important given the fact that, you know, Germany is basically the biggest economy in Europe. So, you know, DAX making a new high, I mean, we're pretty much there. So, you know, by the time we get into August there, we could very well be at all-time new highs, and then we're going to really kick off this final wave 5. Now, Tesla, I mean, you know, Tesla's interesting. There is a very real chance it may have topped here, and this is a complete cycle in Tesla done. All that was a 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So technically, the entire 10-year bull market on Tesla is now complete, and we could very well go into a significant, you know, 4-5 year bear market. Tesla eventually, I would say, goes back to $300 within a few years, and as an absolute minimum gets to below sub 1,000 maybe before the end of the year. So that could very well be a count that the entire 10-year bull market on Tesla is now complete. Now here, obviously we've had earnings. Now technically this high hasn't been taken out. This intraday high has never been taken out. So I've been telling the group for the last week, look, there's a good chance. Now it doesn't have to imminently collapse. It can still go sideways, right? But the point is, you know, there's probably late to the party longs who are now trapped in here, and going sideways, well, that still means that it's topped. So the most bearish count is that is actually a 1, and that is actually a 2. And then obviously we get a significant move down. Now, and then, you know, yes, you would be aiming for the gaps. That's probably where you would aim for. 1250, 1150. I mean, there are loads of gaps here. There's tons of gaps to be filling on the way down. So, and even if it hasn't topped, if this is some kind of wave 3, maybe it's in the midst of some kind of wedge then. A, B, C, D, E, some kind of wedge, and then that's your wave 5. Then we have the move down. But sooner or later, Apple and Microsoft are going to peak, and these second tier stocks like Tesla, they may very well have to get rid of them first, because that's generally the way markets peak. You know, second tier stocks, they get rid of first, and then the major leaders like the Qs and the Apples and the Microsofts, they may very well go with the Nasdaq to the peak. But don't forget, back in 2000, Microsoft, Amazon actually made a new high. It was only Apple and Qs, obviously, because Qs tracks the Nasdaq 100, topped with the Nasdaq. So I think Tesla's in quite a precarious position here, and technically, the way I'm reading this count, an entire decade-long bull market in Tesla has now completed, and a significant correction. But we've been calling for a significant correction anyway across the board, so we know what's coming regardless, right? And obviously, indexes are just a basket of stocks. So if you take the log, are we on the log chart here? Yeah. So you take the log 38.2. I mean, as an absolute minimum, it's going to get to the 38.2 simply because of the fact that 23.6. I mean, obviously, we've got it on the log here, right? Because we want to be involved here in the more longer term count. You know, Tesla could easily go back to $300, frankly, over the next, I don't know, couple of years. I mean, it might even start, if it has topped, this may very well, I mean, fine, it may consolidate, but as long as this intraday high, 1794, doesn't get taken out, Tesla could easily move down here. So I think that's everything I wanted to cover. So still overall, we are looking bullish on this market. Bitcoin has been a little bit frustrating, but gold is looking good. Silver, I mean, we'll have a look at silver. It's definitely been quite surprising to me what silver is doing. I don't think it's a move towards $50 myself. I don't think so. There's a lot of resistance here around this 26 level. That's fairly obvious. So that could very well be a good area to be perhaps even looking for a short, frankly. And I know that the 50% fib of the entire move is coming down to here as well. So I'm not fully convinced this is a move all the way towards $50. There may very well be some resistance here. Dollar weakening is obviously helping silver, but I'm not fully convinced dollar is going to move significantly here in the short, medium, or long term. I still believe there's one more push up in the dollar before the big dump down. But yes, silver and gold to make all-time new highs, and really it's all about the Nasdaq. You know, sooner or later we're going to have to call a top here, but we're not quite there yet, although we're getting close. And like I said, we're just watching this twice a week in the group, and that's sort of what we're doing. And let's see, one more push up here, and then we're going to have to start calling a top. Anyway, I'll see you guys on the next video.